How are you doing today? My name is Brian Vogelsang. I work on the ecosystem development team for Qualcomm, focused on Snapdragon products. And so our charter is really to work with developers like yourselves to help you understand what technologies and what capabilities Qualcomm has that we make available to app developers such that you can build differentiated and better experiences on Snapdragon than you can on other chipsets. So I'm going to walk through a few things today. I'm going to start with a little bit about kind of what the ecosystem looks like for Snapdragon, for those of you who may not be familiar with Qualcomm and the chip, just a little bit about the install base and the reach that you can get from optimizing and building for Snapdragon. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about our Snapdragon developer program and what it means to be a member of that program and how one would apply. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about optimization opportunities, what we can do to optimize, or what you can do rather, to optimize your applications for Snapdragon, what technologies we have available for that, what SDKs we have available for that, and how you would go about getting those and working with Qualcomm technology. And then I'm going to wind up with a little bit of a deeper discussion on AllJoined. AllJoined's a really interesting peer-to-peer technology that we have, and I thought that we have so much stuff that I'm going to be covering a lot. I thought I'd spend a little bit of time at the end and go a little bit deeper into a specific technology I think you guys are going to be really interested in. So with that, I'll get started. So when we look at Qualcomm, many of you are familiar with Qualcomm and Snapdragon in sort of the feature and smartphone space around mobile, where we make semiconductor processors that go into these devices, chipsets that goes into these devices. But Qualcomm is also involved in a whole span of mobile and wireless. Beyond that, we're in computing, we're in consumer electronics, we're in networking, et cetera. So when you think about Qualcomm, and I will be spending quite a bit of time talking about mobile and computing, but when you think about Qualcomm as a potential development platform and working with us, think about us a little bit more broadly than just computing. Qualcomm's, if you look at Snapdragon as a processor and sort of the history there, I'm going to talk about a couple different operating systems. Qualcomm supports the broadest set of high-level operating systems on our semiconductor, and I want to talk a little bit about a couple here in the beginning, just to give you a sense for the reach that we have. The first is Android. As you know, Qualcomm was the first semiconductor to develop on Android. We worked very closely with Google to launch the first devices, and we've been building on that ever since. We have over 250 designs that are launched on our chipsets with Android and over 30 manufacturers that are shipping. So when you build and optimize for Snapdragon, you're going to get a very broad reach in the market. Also want to mention that we support not just the high end. So when it comes to Android, we support the lower cost smartphones as well as the higher end. So when you're looking at worldwide deployment and optimizing your applications for a broad set of devices, I think it's important to think about mass market, high volume devices as well as the others, and Qualcomm certainly provides that. So beyond Android, we also work extensively with Microsoft around Windows Phone. All Windows Phone devices in the market today run on Snapdragon. This is an example of some there that we work very closely with them around. And then we also are working with them on Windows 8. So as I'm sure you're aware, Windows 8 will be supporting ARM architecture, and Qualcomm is working closely with Microsoft to not just support the Windows Phone platform, but also support the Windows 8 platform. And at the keynote address that Paul Jacobs gave, our CEO, gave at CES on Tuesday morning, he showed a demonstration of a tablet running Windows 8 and LTE on Snapdragon. So thinking about developing on Qualcomm and building applications for Qualcomm, you can be thinking about a Windows Phone and Windows 8 as well. So when we look at what is the opportunity to build on or to partner with Qualcomm around applications development, many times people think of Qualcomm and they think of the CPU, the GPU, the sensors, the elements of the chipset that are the DSPs, et cetera, that are sort of the core hardware layer. But sort of built on top of that are the high-level operating systems, and I mentioned that Qualcomm supports the broadest set in the industry. Now, where it gets really interesting, I think, for you guys, for application developers, is really around advanced software that we add on top of the high-level operating system and partner with our OEMs to deliver. And this is where I'm going to spend quite a bit of time talking today, because when we work with developers and support our ecosystems, we spend a lot of time here showing them, all right, these are technologies that we've created that are shipped on Snapdragon devices that you may want to take advantage of to differentiate yourself in the market as well. And then beyond that, we also look at, we realize ecosystem is not just technology. Ecosystem is also tools, and it's people, and it's support resources, and that sort of thing. So I'll talk a little bit more about what we do to support the development community and point you guys to some resources so that you can see what you can take advantage of and download some SDKs and that kind of thing. So I want to touch briefly on the Snapdragon Developer Program. This is a program that we've had in place that really is about helping you understand what we have that you can create differentiation on the platform, and then working with you closely so that you can build that differentiation into your apps, and we can help you bring that differentiation to market. So it's about understanding the technology that we have bring to bear, and then getting you the exposure through our OEMs and through our carrier partners and others that we work in the industry. If you go to our booth just down the hall, you'll see that we have a lot of partners, a lot of software development partners that we're working with that we're demonstrating their technology around. So these are people that have done optimizations and have worked closely with us to create intriguing experiences, consumer experiences that you just don't see today, and we're showing those in the booth, and we have opportunities for you, if you're willing to invest in some of these technologies, to be co-marketed and demonstrated with us. So the Snapdragon Developer Program really we sort of designed it to address the needs of the developer. We have a bunch of technologies. Developer.qualcomm.com is our portal. We have on that site a bunch of SDKs and a bunch of those extended technologies I will talk about in more depth. And then as you build and create interesting experiences, you could tell us about those through that developer.qualcomm.com website. So encourage you to go take a look at the website and look at the technologies. See if those technologies can help you build differentiated experiences in your applications. And as you're doing that, share what you're doing with us, and let us help amplify and get more visibility to those things. So identify this is. Go to the developer website, take a look at what's out there, develop it, and then we bring you in for membership into the program if you're building something that's really compelling and interesting. So QDevnet, that's the developer.qualcomm.com website. It's got forums, it's got blogs, it's got sample code, it's got white papers, it's got documentation around the various SDKs. On the software tools side, we've got a number of SDKs. I'll talk a little bit more about AllJoined in a moment, so I'm not going to highlight that. That's a peer-to-peer technology. We also have Adreno, our GPU, a profiler, so that you can, which is a technology you can use to, if you're doing graphics development and you're building, let's say, games or other graphics-intensive applications, and you want to be able to get the most out of the hardware capabilities, you can download these tool sets and use these tool sets to help build and optimize, measure how well your software is performing on Qualcomm's hardware, and ultimately create better experiences with that. Augmented reality. So if you saw the keynote, you also saw the demonstration we did with augmented reality that Paul Jacobs did around the workshop. It's with Sesame Workshop, the folks at Sesame Street, and the demo is actually down in our booth. I encourage you to go take a look at it. It's very cool. You look through the lens of the tablet using augmented reality technology at these little sort of toy targets, and the toy targets are like Bert and Ernie, and they come to life. They start talking to you, and then you introduce a jukebox toy into the scene as well, and then it starts with a disco ball, and they start dancing and that sort of thing. So those kinds of technologies are really, really interesting, and those tools are available through QDevnet, through the developer.qualcomm.com website. We also have tools around imaging, enhancing imaging, and camera, computer vision. Those kinds of things are interesting. It's not just software. We also have hardware. So there's a mobile development platform that you can purchase through the website, and that will provide you access to sort of next generation sensors and capabilities we have coming out in the chipsets that you'll see in devices in the future. You can get access to those capabilities now by getting that hardware through Qualcomm. So Snapdragon Developer Program, just provide you the URL, developer.qualcomm.com/SDP. We encourage you to go take a look at that and get us, share with us what you're interested in optimizing around. Let's have a dialogue about that and work on that. I also wanted to give a shout out to our, if any of you are in the gaming space and are doing work on gaming, Qualcomm has launched Game Command, which is a free application. It's an Android market right now. You can go download it, and it sort of aggregates all the graphics, the gaming applications that have been optimized for Snapdragon. It's also got news related to gaming in it. It's also got a pretty cool little app manager in it, so you can take all the games from your device, whether it's Snapdragon or not, bring it in to this app launcher and quickly get access to your game. So just wanted to mention that briefly. This is also a distribution opportunity for you. So if you're in the gaming space and you're doing gaming, app-based application, if you optimize those to the Adreno GPU, or perhaps you build an application using peer-to-peer with AllJoined or Augmented Reality, it's an opportunity to get featured within this game portal. And so we'll be out there promoting this game portal and getting consumers to download it, that sort of thing. So this is another distribution opportunity should you elect to work with us. So let's go into more detail about optimization and what exactly you can do and what tools we have on developer.qualcomm.com to help you. First is video optimization. So we have hardware video decoders, encoders within the chipset. Many people build video streaming-based applications that use software encoders. They use their own software encoder. They're not taking advantage of the hardware. So what that means is by not using the hardware, you're not necessarily getting the best optimal battery efficiency because the CPU is having to do more. Your application, so your application is going to drain the battery. You might not be getting as high quality of a video stream as possible because the software encoder is bogging down the system, that sort of thing. So video optimization, I think, is a key one. Taking advantage of that, we have some tools, some sample code, some resources on developer.qualcomm.com to actually, if you have a video-based application, to take advantage of the decoder, also the encoder. So if you're doing anything around video telephony, or other where you want to transmit video sort of off the device, you need to encode it. You can work with the sample code there to optimize that to the chipset as well. Content protection, we're doing a lot with content protection, security, digital rights management, being able to protect the keys within the device that might be related to content, and be able to secure those in a way that are going to meet the standards of the media companies who are providing that content perhaps to you. So if you're in that space where you're serving up media content and you need content protection, the highest possible levels, we have the capability to deliver that. Graphics, I've touched on the GPU, Adreno GPU. We have the Adreno Profiler and other tools there that you can take advantage of optimizing and profiling your application to see how it's performing against the GPU. Those are available there. On the power side, power is something that's extremely important. Snapdragon processors are extremely power efficient. However, it's always good to optimize your application for power so that it's not draining excess power or using more functionality within the handset or the network that might affect the power performance of the device. And I'll talk a little bit about, we have some tools and some hardware that you can use to actually physically measure that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Facial processing is something that's really interesting. So the ability to do things like be able to detect a face, be able to detect multiple faces through the imaging sensor, to be able to detect if people are smiling or frowning or blinking or where they're gazing, that sort of thing. We have demos of this. If you're interested, if you're doing things on the imaging side and you want to use the imaging sensor to do more sophisticated things with the consumer who's looking at the device, then encourage you to go take a look at that. We actually have the smile detection demo over there. And there's some, we're bringing some of that technology out to our QDevnet and are going to be sharing that with developers so that you can take advantage of it in your applications. Peer-to-peer, I'm going to spend a little bit of time at the end talking about AllJoined, so I won't touch on that too much. MultiMike and audio, this is another one that's sort of interesting. Using more and more audio sensors are being put into these devices, and those sort of audio arrays allow you to do much more sophisticated things, like spatially. We have a demo in the booth again that's showcasing this, where the camera, or the phone sort of sits in center stage and asks some trivia questions, and people can stand on sort of either side of the phone, almost like the phone is a microphone, and the first one to sort of say, hey, I got it, on the trivia question, gets to answer it, and they sort of win it. So it sort of shows how the sensors, the microphones in the device and the technology in the device can be used to do much more sophisticated things in applications than just record a voice, let's say. So when it comes to the QDevnet, developer.qualcomm.com, and the tools and resources we have available there, I talked about the Arduino profiler. There's also an Arduino SDK for creating, basically doing richer things with the GPU on our devices. There's the Augmented Reality SDK that is also there. So these are all free. These are all free to download. There's just a quick registration process with an email address that's required to get most of these things. The AllJoined SDK, which we'll talk about in a moment. The Trepan Profiler for MDPs, what this is a power profiler that allows you to instrument the power usage of your app when your app is running on our mobile development platform. So this is the hardware that you can purchase through developer.qualcomm.com. That what we do is we actually instrument some of the power rails within the hardware to determine, exactly, which core your software is running on, how much power it's consuming on each core. There's a whole sophisticated element on that, and that is Trepan Profiler is a tool that you can download. And if you have one of these mobile development platforms, you kind of plug it in and you can run these power diagnostics. And then FastEV's computer vision SDK, and this is really about being able to take advantage of the DSP to accelerate certain computer vision tasks. So it's used by our Augmented Reality SDK to accelerate augmented reality within the augmented reality applications on our devices. But we felt that it was also important to be able to release this to the development community for folks who weren't doing augmented reality, but were also doing computer vision-based applications who needed DSP acceleration and some of the capabilities there. So encourage you to take a look at developer.qualcomm.com, QDevnet, and download some of those. This is the MDP. We actually have three kind of variants of this MDP, the mobile development platform. The two on the left, one is a smartphone version, the other one's a tablet version. These are, the tablet version's not available yet. You can get the smartphone version. What these are is these are the development platforms. They have the next generation of sensors in them. They have the next generation of software and hardware capabilities, and you can get access to them today through these devices. So we encourage you, if you're interested in if your application requires, maybe some enhanced hardware capabilities, and you can read about, there's data sheets and that sort of thing up on developer.qualcomm.com about these. But if your application requires some of these capabilities, some of the sensors, some of the technology, you can get these and test your applications on them. The Snapdragon MVP is also required for the power profiler that I talked about. I've got a slide after that goes in a little more detail. And the tablet MVP is coming, so there will be a tablet development platform as well. These are used by a lot of our software partners who want to get experience sort of the next generation of hardware before it's out commercially. Will buy these and use them to build and optimize on. Then we have the Dragon board. The Dragon board is sort of a hardware board for doing more sophisticated hardware development. So if you guys are just doing software as developers, you'd stick to the left. But if you're actually going to build a device or a module or something that used the processor, and you needed to be able to put more sophisticated hardware elements in and attach those, solder stuff onto the board and that sort of thing, you would go with the board on the right. This is the Trepan Profiler, power profiler. Again, it's real important to power consumption. If you have the MDP, the smartphone version of the MDP, or the tablet version of the MDP, you'll be able to run this power profile on it. And this is where you can see the hardware rails and that sort of thing. See the power on each CPU, and be able to measure, okay, if I go make a change to my application, how has that impacted my performance? Maybe I'm going to use the network a little bit less. Maybe I'm going to do some other things to make it make the application more efficient. Okay, so just a few minutes left. I wanted to take some time to, we have so many technologies. I want to give you guys a brief overview of them, but I want to go into a little bit more depth in AllJoined because I think this one's pretty important. It's one of the SDKs that's available at, it's actually available at alljoined.org. It's a little different than the other ones. You can learn about it at developer.qualcomm.com, but the reason it's at alljoined.org is it's actually open source. So it's an open source software framework that makes peer-to-peer easy for application developers like yourselves. So, peer-to-peer, we started looking at the problem of peer-to-peer about three and a half years ago and said, well, why is it we have radios like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in the phones that are in this room, but applications running on these phones can't find each other and interconnect proximally? So we started looking at that problem with a team of Bluetooth engineers up in Seattle, and they quickly determined that that there are a bunch of problems that made peer-to-peer hard. Application developers just couldn't necessarily overcome some of these barriers. So we started looking at what is it that we could do as a company to make peer-to-peer easy, so that people could do multiplayer gaming, or they could do other proximity-based applications where devices, multiple devices, not just one-to-one, but many-to-many devices can discover each other and begin communicating with each other. And so what we found was that it was really hard. You had to deal with things like Bluetooth pairing, which the consumer had to get involved with. You had to deal with transient devices coming and going. You had to deal with different operating systems, and you had to deal with different ways that you message between devices. And application developers just couldn't really figure this out, so they really hadn't been able to build anything like this to date. So we said, we're going to go build this, but we realized that if we're going to invest in peer-to-peer, in order for peer-to-peer to really be successful, it has to be ubiquitous. It has to be everywhere. If I have a device and I'm trying to talk to another device, and that device can't use the technology, then that's a big problem. So that's the reason we took the open source approach with it. So feel free to go to alljoined.org, www.alljoined.org, download the SDK, download the source code, take a look at it, and begin experimenting with it. So it's what exactly it is it's an open source software framework. So it's got an SDK. It's got a library. That library can be incorporated into, let's say, your Android application, and then you can deliver your Android application over the air using packaged with AllJoined through an app store, and now your application has AllJoined in it. Or we're also working with our OEM partners to implement AllJoined at the platform layer, so the AllJoined is just there when you download your application. It's also in future versions of the chipset, like the S4. It's just going to come with a chipset. It's going to ship with it, so you'll begin seeing it in more and more devices. But there's nothing stopping you from incorporating AllJoined into your applications today and delivering them through app stores. So what are the kinds of experiences that you can create with a technology like AllJoined, peer-to-peer? Well, there are a whole bunch, but I'll talk about kind of three because I think that these are interesting buckets. The first is entertainment experiences, like head-to-head gaming, multiplayer gaming. We've got some work that we're doing, or some demonstrations of that in the booth. I encourage you to go see that. We've got an application called Spudball that was developed by a developer. It's basically like the hot potato game. So it's running in your microwave. You flick him out to the other person, and then then instantly appears over peer-to-peer. They flick the potato out, and it's sort of this multiplayer. 4 or 5 people can get together and have this sort of collaborative, fun experience. So entertainment experiences and play and gaming we think is really important. And what's cool about using AllJoined and peer-to-peer in gaming is you don't have to go through cloud infrastructure. So if you've got let's say an application that is that's a casual application, a casual game, or something that you're a small developer and you've only invested, you don't have time to go build cloud infrastructure or pay for cloud infrastructure, you can add multiplayer features into your application really inexpensively because there's nothing to do other than integrate AllJoined and package it in, and AllJoined does most of the heavy lifting for that. So the next kind of experience we think is interesting is multi-screen experiences. So, and we have a demonstration of this in the booth as well. This is where there's a new classification of applications that we like to think of as multi-screen applications. That's where part of the application runs on the television or the display, and part of the application actually runs on the tablet, and the two work in concert to deliver the experience to the consumer. we have a demo of this in our booth by a company called Funware, and the application is called Hip Hop Official, and there's a tablet and a television. The television's running Snapdragon, the tablet's running Snapdragon. They're both running Hip Hop Official, and there's 3 mini demos in it, but you launch the application, and the TV starts up, and it starts playing a music video and an artist interview, and then it starts asking you questions on the tablet related to the content on the television. They're completely in sync, so it's sort of a question and answer, like trivia type thing that you can. And the cool thing is that they're using AllJoined. The television was able to discover the tablet, and the applications are able to intercommunicate. We've also got a karaoke demo where you can basically sing karaoke into your tablet, and then using AllJoined, the transfers your voice over to the television and then replays the music video with your voice versus the other one. So multi-screen we think is really cool. And then collaborative experiences are also important. So being able to do things like share. Why is it that we can't, I can't just share this PowerPoint presentation to all you guys right now so that you can just leave with it? Why is it, why isn't that we can't share business cards electronically, proximally? Those kinds of things are solved by technologies like this. We need application developers like yourselves to go build the next generation of applications that use it. So we think there's a lot of potential around that. And then just a real quick, I'm almost out of time, but there's a case study of this application is also being demonstrated, but I wanted to highlight it because this is a partner that's launching with AllJoined. And this is Namco from they've got an application called Pac-Man Kart Rally. It was a single-player application, but they have extended it to do multiplayer using AllJoined, so up to 4 players can play each other. All you do is launch the application. It discovers the people around you. You select them and then start playing. And it's all low latency because you're all on the same Wi-Fi. Using AllJoined, it creates this really cool multiplayer gaming experience that you couldn't otherwise do without investing in stuff in the cloud. So I think I'm out of time, but I'm going to be around in the hallway if there's anyone who wants to stop me, or I can give you my business card and we can talk a little bit more about any of these technologies. I encourage you guys to go to the Qualcomm booth, come by and visit us, and we can talk to you about more. I'll be there the rest of the day.